Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sexuality. A lot of people aren't comfortable with this. And I was approached by a sister, not the only one, but there's been a few young people, Muslims from different countries, different backgrounds, come to me and have asked me about sexuality in terms of, in this particular case, was a sister who was asking how should she, as a single mother, deal with her 4 boys. Her oldest boy is now becoming of age. He started to hit puberty, and she's not really sure how do I approach these issues of sexuality as a woman to a young man, to teach him to understand his responsibility as a man. And that is a difficult proposition for many people. And the reason being is when we combine things like that situation, which is far more common than we want to admit, single mothers raising young boys, and all the stuff politically that's going on in the world right now, where there's this very concentrated active movement to destroy the genders, to destroy marriage, the institution of marriage. And unfortunately, as Muslims, we fall into this a lot. And then when you combine the fact that you have cultural issues with many, many topics. So, for example, mental illness is one of these things that, inshallah, we'll talk about in a different kind of series. But there's so many cultural issues that prevent people from discussing these things. Now, to make it simple, one of the things that we have to remember is that the Prophet ﷺ used to speak about everything. Right? He just did it with adab, with etiquette, with manners. Everything he did had adab, right? When he approached seeking knowledge, he had etiquette and manners and how he approached knowledge. When he dealt with people, there was etiquette and manners, the way he behaved in relationships with his family, with his friends, with strangers, with people that he was doing dawah to. I mean, he always had this level of etiquette that he would maintain across the board in everything. Now, we are unfortunately upset and, can't talk about sex, right? When we say words like penis or vagina, people get really like flustered and out of shape. So I think that one of the reasons too that there's this perception that people in the West are far more comfortable with sexuality, and that may be the case to a point, but unfortunately the West, the drawback with us is we actually don't really, for many people, don't even have limits to discuss sexuality. So that's one of the issues. So this is kind of an intro before I get really into things a lot. I'm just going to kind of give you a summary of what I'm going to do, inshallah. That would initially what I want to do is just discuss obviously some of the biological stuff, because part of the intention too is that she can maybe show this to her son and sit with him and have a discussion after this, having a male perspective on things. Also, we'll talk about the spiritual aspects. I mean, it's very easy to go to the Quran and the Sunnah and understand the high level discussion about what the Prophet ﷺ said and did in terms of sexuality. Because it's all about sex ed, right? Everything that we have in terms of the Quran and Hadith was sex education, dispelling superstitions, educating people about what's allowed and what's not allowed in terms of sexuality, what's good and what's bad, what's safe and what's not safe, all of these kind of things. And this is just a general principle with Islam across the board. Everything is about a balance, right? I mentioned this water. People, for example, we forget that we need water to live. But if we consume too much water, we become extreme in our consumption of water. We can actually cause various illnesses because too much water actually flushes a lot of vitamins and minerals from your body and create actually health problems by drinking too much water. So everything has to be balanced. Sexuality has to be balanced. It's pleasurable. It's obviously very enjoyable, and that's where all the focus unfortunately is. It's all about the focus on how you feel about sexuality, and we forget that there's aspects of how it can affect a relationship, how it can destroy a relationship, how it serves the purpose of procreation. So an example is everything on the planet that's alive has procreation in some form or another. I mean, obviously, animals and humans have much more, a apparent sexual intercourse, if you will. Whereas plants, for example, they're in their form of sexuality, they require male and female to come together to propagate the species of the plant. And this is either done through pollination, through animal or through insects. Farmers do it through, especially like small urban gardeners. A lot of them will do it by hand. And we'll talk about some of these things and just kind of, it's the idea is to just be casual, to be fun, make it simple, make it relaxed, so that we can get over some of these uncomfortable feelings. And maybe this format too might help with some of the young brothers and sisters who are like afraid to ask questions in public. You can private message me. The one rule is, I'm going to focus on it all the way through it, is don't be lewd. There's no need to be lewd. Now, we can discuss lewdness in terms of language, just so we have an understanding about this stuff, but there's no need to go into specific details. There's no need to talk about husband and wife relationships beyond the fact that, I'm struggling sexually with my wife. People have medical conditions, erectile dysfunction, all of these types of things. So we can go over this type of stuff, inshallah, and just, the idea is to just be casual and to just be raw and be out there and to just do it in a way that's, inshallah, educational, that combines all the aspects of the academic, science, and spirituality, as well as the emotional, and we'll see where we go from there. So one of the things you can help to support this is I have set up what's called a Patreon account. This is crowdfunding for creative individuals, people who do podcasts, videos, and so on. And it can be anything from $1 a month to whatever you can support. And it would really help in terms of keeping this stuff going. I want to really focus on touching about topics that for some reason our community is afraid to talk about. Sexuality, mental illness, just general average common sense behavior. We talk about the inspirational things, but we seem to be lacking this. So by getting involved with Patreon, you can really help me out. And all the details for that type of stuff will be in the video description, as well as I use Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And inshallah, we'll see where it goes from there. So as I said, remember, your intention is to be, how can I benefit from this? People are uncomfortable with the topic, and we'll see where we can go from there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.